thank you so much, Sam, for joining me on Behind the Art. I've been a huge fan of yours for a very long time. That's an understatement. But yeah, man, welcome to the channel.
Hey, thank you, Kieran. How you say your name, by the way? Kieran?
It's Kieran. Yeah, it's. I don't know if you've ever had the beer Kieran Ichiban. It's a Japanese
Oh,
beer.
I had some Japanese beer lately, but no, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually my full name is Kirendra, but I go by Kieran because it's a little less confusing, I guess.
Yeah, but Kirendra sounds kind of epic. You're like the bad guy from the Thundercats.
Yeah, actually, all my brothers and my dad have Dras at the end of their names. It's a because I'm half Indian, so it's a North Indian, I guess, name. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so before we start, I just wanted to ask you, how was your trip to Japan? I think, did you go to Japan?
Oh, yeah. I went to Japan. To It was supposed to get to be a vacation. And I got engaged with my longtime fiancée Sophia.
Oh, congrats, man.
Uh, and also we went to a small event in Japan called THU, where we had the chance to listen to Kojima and George Miller and two of my art heroes, who are Joji Shinkawa from Metal Gear, from Kojima Productions, and
Okay,
Katsuya Terada. And I met
very nice.
a lot of Japanese artists and a big fan of Japanese robots. So I was in heaven. It's kind of hard, getting back here to reality.
Yeah, I've always wanted to visit Japan, but it's kind of one of those things financially at the moment. We're me and the wife and the kid are trying to plan a vacation, just like not in California, just somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, maybe one day we'll make the trip down there. But yeah, man, very nice. And congrats on getting engaged.
Thank you.
But anyway, yeah, just for the first question, like, when did you start? I guess you can go back as far as when you were, beginning drawing, or your professional career. Like, when did you start getting into what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so I've been much like everyone else. I've been drawing since I have the capacity to do it. I was always attracted to draw dinosaurs, insects, especially spiders and robots. We had a lot of Japanese mecha anime giant robot genre going on in the local TV, which was my obsession as a kid, as an adult as well. And so I enrolled into graphic design in a local school here, which is an abysmal idea if you want to be an illustrator and get into graphic design, because they're very different disciplines. Especially here, they were starting to really make a difference, taking a stand and making uh, clear boundaries and what was allowed in terms of drawing or not drawing. So I kind of grew really bored of that after the second year. We had some illustration classes, but they weren't that great. They were like, just, I don't know, they were just an excuse to make people draw whatever they want. And most people hated drawing. I don't know why. And we were drawing like these incredible boring subjects. But when I say incredible boring, I'm not really exaggerating. I'm a person who tends to use a lot of exaggeration when it comes to jokes and all that. But they were like incredible boring. You would think that drawing a basket of fruit or some flower would fall within that category, that sort of thing. But no, we're drawing like carpentry tools, but not even like the interesting carpentry tool. We're drawing like this thing that is used to take wood of the size of pieces of wood,
Okay.
incredibly uninteresting stuff, and the teacher will give us assignments like, take this thing and do an interesting composition, and I would do it like I just solved the problem, and I just wanted to get out. And suddenly the teacher sees all the doodles I have in my notebook, because instead of taking notes about uh, graphic design and all the stuff, I would doodle like I will do all my life.
Yeah.
And she said, why don't you put the same sense of dedication and craftsmanship into drawing your stuff for class as you do in the stuff that you doing for yourself? And I said quite plainly, because I don't like the stuff we have to draw for class. And she said, well, you can't always draw what you like. Sometime what will happen the next day if some concrete, and I mean concrete, the stuff that you pour into construction company, wants you to make their a drawing for them, an illustration from them. And I said again, I would kill myself. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So she put that perspective into my mind. So they were like the early days of the internet here in Paraguay, and I got the chance to have a small internet connection. So I kind of started researching what would you do in order to make a living as an artist, and if it was possible for a guy here in the center of South America to be hired by a company in the United States, or any place in the world, really. I always loved books, and at the time I was really into role-playing games, which came in book format.
Yeah.
So I put up a quick portfolio, and I sent a couple of emails. I want to say a couple, I mean around 50. um, just trying to get a feel of what's going to happen. And I that same night I got a response from a publisher, and I quit graphic design and started working freelancing for role-playing companies for around 10 years. After
Oh
that,
wow. Okay.
I was kind of fed up of the of role-playing, not because I hate the games, but a lot of companies use the work for hire thing, that where essentially you are giving up all your ideas and the execution of the ideas to the companies without seeing any further compensation. And that's fair enough. I signed those contracts. I knew what work for hire meant. But I wanted to do something different. So I put up uh, a bunch of personal work. And because Paraguay is very small, if you want to say have an interview or show your work to something as to in a museum or a museum curator, you can do it in like less than 24 hours. You will meet somebody who knows somebody. And I
Okay.
did that, and I got a show into a museum, uh, which went great, and that helped me out to gain a scholarship within a now defunct art institution, online art institution called the Art Department, where I got the chance to learn drawing and painting, and especially illustration, from someone of my longtime heroes in the illustration world. I'm a big, big illustration nerd. So if you
Yeah.
ask me names about illustrators, I can tell. I can tell you all the names. Uh, I, Also, there I met my art parents, with our John Foster and Vanessa Lemon, great artists, great illustrators, that taught me a lot and kind of helped me reformulate my approach, redraw, metaphorically and literally, my approach to art. And I became obsessed with this idea of doing book illustration uh, for the big five in the United States. Uh, fast forward to 2006, I think. I was going through a very rough period of my life. Without getting into a lot of detail, I was literally, I was seeing as all the good things in my life were leaving me, including the cat. I have just the stray cat I just adopted. Um, Loved ones were dying. Financial difficulties were abound. Everything was kind of hard, and with all the money I had in the bank, I bought a ticket to a now defunct again illustration convention in the United States in Kansas City called Spectrum. From the now defunct, man, everything dies. Annual
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
the
I
Spectrum,
can
the
relate to
best.
that.
Yeah, the best in contemporary and science fiction. And I went with my portfolio and a very clear idea of what I wanted, which really helped me because I found out that most of the people in the arts, we are kind of lost. And through a series of, through the hard way, sadly, but you know, through the sad way, the hard way, maybe, but it was the only way. I found out that I really wanted to do book covers, and I ended up with a lot of job offers. So when I came back to Paraguay, I started freelancing for two of the big five companies, and now I work for three of them uh, out of the five. And I also do gallery art. A lot that has to do with self-expression. When it comes to a tone in my work, I would say it's mostly it lends towards the weird fiction category, horror, dark fantasy.
Yeah,
Despite my interest always being everywhere, but I found out that I found that that exploration of the darker themes have a sense of liberty, and I don't know. I felt like it's sometimes I felt like weird fiction is that like the ultimate tribe of imagination. Wherever I was like fantasy, swords and sorcery stuff never grew on me to the point where I really want to draw that the every day in my life. But when it comes to illustration, when it comes especially to books, hardcover books with illustrations, limited editions with leather and all that stuff, it's just like there's some kind of joy and energy when you receive the final product. You got a physical object that it feels like a talisman, a testimony, even if that you were alive and you were doing that, you were doing art. So yeah, that's kind of the very condensed story of how I started to become an illustrator.
yeah, you're. Yeah, I kind of agree with you with like obviously like my own artwork. I kind of lean towards more of the dark variety, but 'cause I feel like kind of horror and dark art tends to resonate with everybody, whether they like to admit it or not. There's some kind of like primal connection with the darker stuff. I mean, even throughout history and everything, like with all the historic artwork and I feel like yeah, like you said, like a book cover, like your art, for instance, like it's not just like when I look at your art and it's for a book, I'm not necessarily connecting the art with the story. It's more of like I can kind of put my own idea on the artwork. It's sort of open ended, which I like. That's my favorite type of art. Dave McKean's one of my favorites, and I even see. I don't know if you know this artist Christopher Shy.
Oh
He's an
yeah,
illustrator.
yeah, he
He's
was
kind
a big influence.
yeah.
One of my happiest moments when I was starting was actually deducing his instant messaging handling in some platform. I think was AOA, American Online, something like that. And I
Okay.
deduced. what was his handle. So I started talking to him out of nowhere. It must be kind of weird. It was super nice to me, and I approached it from a very humble way, from a very humble perspective of saying, "Dude, you to me, you are the OG, the guy who uh, did the art that in the role playing books that I like the most, and I wanted to work and do the same stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, cool, cool, very supportive." I can't remember his exact words, but it was very supportive.
Yeah, I feel nowadays, especially with like social media, you can kind of like you tend to reach out. You can reach out more easily to other artists, like guys who you've looked up to, like before, prior. I mean, I think we're kind of close in age, but yeah, it was like the internet. It was like you didn't have unless you had their email. Like how are you supposed to contact these artists, or so it's very hard. But now everybody's online, and you can just converse with everybody really, and someone can just send you a message, hey, I really love your art, and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's great. That's I think that as artists, we tend to create these tiny bubbles, these tiny islands, where we this niche where we exist, and it's kind of very close ecosystem. Like, for example, at THU Japan, I meet a lot of character artists, and I would obviously nerd out about a lot of different artists, like book cover artists, record cover artists, and they wouldn't know them, but then they will start talking about character artists and art directors in video games, and I wouldn't know them. So everything that helps me to connect to different sort of artists, and I think it's a giant blessing, and I just love it. I'm very bad at keeping online friendships and all that, and making conversation online, but I really appreciate it. From time to time, I make a note in my activities through the day to actually send a nice email or a nice message to somebody who inspired me. And I think I should send Christopher one again someday.
Yeah, I kind of wanted, because I think I was friends with him on Facebook at a time, and then I think he just had like a Facebook purge, and he was like, "Who's this guy?" Because like you add people, and sometimes like you're like, even I get requests from people, and they don't really interact with me, so I'm just like, after a few months, I just kind of go in there and go, "Oh well, I haven't talked to this person. He doesn't really," so I just unfriend him. So that's probably what happened. But I don't try to take it personally. Obviously, it's whatever. Um, but so in terms of like your style, do you think it's like a compliment when someone says, "Oh yeah, your work is like so this artist," or do you kind of get insulted in a way, like because all artists sort of want to be their own artists and have their own original style, but it's hard to do that these days when there's so much out there, like so much inspiration, and you're inspired by so many different artists.
Oh yeah, I'll get into a very nice, funny anecdote regarding that. Um, I got like the first Christopher Shy art book when it first came out. It was called "Running: The Art of Christopher Shy." It was obviously a big influence, and I don't think I don't remember exactly if it was in that art book or some other interview where where he said that people were telling him that he was the poor man's what was the name of this artist who did a lot of work from Vampire the Masquerade and the Punisher comic books. I think it's Joshua Gabriel Timbrook, or no, Josh Tim something Tim.
Okay.
Well, pen and ink artist, great artist.
Okay.
Um, so sometimes I would get a backhanded compliment. I would say, "Oh man, you're the poor man's Christopher Shy." Oh, that but and that I'm talking about, like, man, 15 years ago. I haven't
Okay.
received that kind of message in a long while. but if you do, you're welcome. uh, um, and I thought long and hard about that, and I think that art, in a certain way, it's also the search of our own identity, and our own identity is it's constantly evolving and changing, and things outside sources seep in constantly. And uh, I would say I view this as a compliment. And sometimes when people write me and they say they're an influence, and they say, "But I'm so sorry, I'm taking a lot from you," I'm like, "I'm fine. You can um, take everything from my style of art, as long as you don't, you just don't trace it and or take a photo and run to a filter and call it your own. um, you can steal my ideas, poses, symbolisms, whatever. That's it's completely fine. I'll find new ones. You'll find new ones, and that's a part of your artistic journey. A part of mine, and the search for who I really am, because who I am changes every day. Wherever tomorrow I'm the poor man's Bekczynski or the poor man's HR Giger, that's fine. Sometimes I'll be the middleman Sam Araya or the rich man Sam Araya. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, yeah, I agree with the, I think all artists go through a period where they're kind of trying to figure out like what their style is. And like, I don't know, I've kind of learned, I watched a little small interview with Bill Sienkiewicz, and he was saying that, you should never force yourself to do a certain style. You should just do what feels right. And I feel like it just naturally progresses. Like you just kind of you do something for a while, and then you kind of want to add something new, and then eventually it just turns into something different. And I feel like we all because I'm a big like Boris Vallejo and like Frank Frazetta, that old school kind of fantasy art. And there was a time where like all my art was like beautiful women, and then it was like some kind of just it would be her, the woman would be the focus, and then like I'd have some kind of element. But then eventually people online were like, oh, you only draw or do women, and and I was just like, oh, okay. And then I started, now I'm kind of going on some like Dave McKean thing where I'm only depicting like skeletal like male figures, and like just kind of like the distorted reality type stuff. And I kind of like, I think I like that because you don't have to be necessarily super into anatomy. You can just kind of like experiment and say like, oh, like what if one of his arms is like a lot bigger than the other, and it just like there's this kind of surrealistic look. And I kind of noticed that with your artwork too. Like you have like, especially your paintings, like you have these like creatures like with like, I love your traditional your work. I mean,
Thank
it's
you.
like super inspiring. I kind of wanted to get into that, and I do doubt. I mean, I do draw and paint, but I don't do it enough where I'm getting like better. I'm just like, I'll just but do you feel like do you prefer doing, because I know you do digital and traditional. Do you prefer one of the other, or do you kind of like just to mix them together? And
Hmm. I feel like there's so many things that are left and they can be said with digital art. But I've been really, I kind of, since I approach art from like the other way around. Initially, I was very digital, and I kind of had that chip on my shoulder that, oh my God, I can only paint in Photoshop. I mean, I don't even paint, I just use photographs. I must be a cheat of an imposter. But that uh, kind of fell off over I'm not gonna lie, a long period of time. But I just came to accept, not discover, but accept again that we create in different ways. But I've been enjoying a lot painting traditionally because there is a level of control. I don't want to say it's a comfort level because every every time I start well a new illustration, a new piece of art, it's kind of a bit of a panic attack of oh my god, I kind of lost it. I kind of lost my ability once again, like I do every day, every morning. Um, but with traditional, it forces me to be more present at some point, in the sense that I need to take heed and pay attention to what I'm doing. And at the same time, when it gets out of control, I end up with something that might not be usable at the time, but I might use it later, like as a texture of a part of a painting I particularly like. A big, big part of my drive to be an artist is experimentation. Bill Sienkiewicz obviously is kind of one of those uh, big references when it comes to experimentation, especially when it comes to mixing and matching media and throwing some chemicals into media that will make it react in a different way. And I
Yeah.
really like that sort of stuff. If behind me, I got a big uh, what's his name? It's a roll top desk with a lot of
Okay.
tiny drawers, and there's even more tiny drawers all around the studio with media. So I start the day and I say, okay, today I want to do ink. The final product is going to be digital, but I want to start just getting my hands dirty and see where the drawing goes, where the idea goes with ink. Other days I will go, okay, I found this really good photo that I took of a tree root or a stain in the middle of a wall, or I would find stock photography, copyright-free stock photography, particularly um, vintage, black and white. And this is a nice starting point for an idea. And that experimentation helps me to not make my life boring. And it's very important. At the same time, the media that I found that I enjoy the most and the least, and the one I least I I use, it's sculpture. for
Okay.
for it's a question of space, but I really like the tactility of the clay. Uh, what else regarding media? Today, everything I do always starts with traditional drawing. That's something that I kind of impose over myself in the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, I have the joy of having my first 99% hand painted book cover for one of my favorite authors. It's coming sometime this year. It's for an
Okay.
author, a weird fiction author called Laird Byron, and he's doing like a dark fantasy series. And one of the notes said an evil, rooting, undead moon, and my mind instantly just jumped into these paperbacks from hell, paperback art of an evil moon, which I sketched digitally. Then I projected using a projector, of course, into paper, and just begin jamming over it with acrylics and what's the name, color pencil. And it turned out great. I just had to do a couple of color corrections for the final and make sure my ellipses were nice, because they're always wonky in traditional media. And that was a particular like high point of my life, I would say. So yeah, everything starts traditionally these days.
Very cool. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you like what your process was. Um, I know for me, like I actually go on YouTube sometimes and I just type in like artist workspaces and I just like watch videos of different artists, whether they're digital, traditional, and I just love the videos of just showing where they work. And do you feel like it's important to have an area to work in that's inspiring? Because I know sometimes I'll have to be in the right mind space because of any kind of hiccup, it affects the creative process. Like if there's like I have to tidy up, then it's like okay, I have to clean up now. My creative inspiration is like gone because I have to.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's important to have like a space that's ready to go, like at all times and inspiring to create, like for you, for instance?
Yeah, let me preface this with I'm really addicted to that kind of stuff, that kind of content. So if you publish like your work desk, studio tour, sign me up, send me a link. I would love to see it. And this goes for everybody. I'm also big into Warhammer miniatures and model making, Gundams, and all that nerdy stuff. So I look, I go into Instagram and see their workspaces and see their organization, and the way they keep their stuff, their supply, like their art supplies, all in the same space. I'm a messy painter who does messy things, so my workplace is always messy, as you can see in the background, barely see, and that's fine. My studio, you cannot see it right now, but has a huge art book collection, sketches painted on the side, art from artists that really inspired me. Toy collection. I'm sorry, I'm a toy collector.
Yeah,
Mostly.
I have a few too. I have like Funko Pops like all over the wall here. I have like Game of Thrones, Star Wars
Oh
stuff. I
man,
mean,
you're into the phone collection. You're lost. You're lost. Nice,
yeah.
sweet prince. Yeah, I collect mostly Japanese robots. So mostly that. Some of them are Warhammer miniatures, but and it really helps me because I'm the kind of person who needs um, that overdose of a stimuli to create, and I can uh, find a solution uh, to a visual problem that I've been struggling with in a transformer toy, as odd as that sounds, from time to time. But recently, I was reading a book called something. Sorry, my memory isn't what it used to be. Something about Carnage is an interview with Nick Cave, a conversation with Nick Cave with a friend of his who is an author about grief, creativity, and all that. And at some point, that leads to another interview where he said that he used to have this huge, beautiful studio. Nick Cave is a great musician, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
I know Nick Cave. Yeah.
should listen to him. And he has his beautiful studio, which kind of was like, again, my inspiration for mine. And he donated everything because suddenly he reached that point where was creativity born in that physical space. It was that was possible that that space was just a frame of mind. And I've been toying with the idea not to sell all my stuff because I dig my stuff. I have cool stuff, but rather what would happen if I were with the bare minimum, like just the art supplies and a table. With that, with the overabundance of stimuli that we have today with social media and of the immediacy of, I need to look, say I need reference for, I don't know, squirrels, and I go online and watch a 5 hour documentary on squirrels, and suddenly I'm into that rabbit hole, and I'm into a big squirrel addiction. That kind of stuff. And what happens if we are just alone with our thoughts and the matter, the media that we work? It's something that I've been doing meditation a lot, and that that idea kind of resonates with me. I gotta try it someday. But yeah, the environment to me pays a huge difference. when it comes to creating?
Yeah, I'm kind of, I mean, I work mostly digital, but I do have like a little tabletop, like drawing board. Sometimes I'll whip it out and I can like do paintings but yeah, again, it's like I have to set it up. So eventually I want a space where I can have it all set up already. So if I feel like it, I can just jump on there and there's no having to think. You just kind of start painting or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah,
do
I
that.
feel, yeah, yeah, I
May,
kind
may,
of
may I
good.
give you a piece of advice that I got from Vanessa Lemon again? I went
Yeah,
to her studio, and the way she works, her paintings, which are beautiful, everybody should look into Vanessa Lemon's work. Um, an artist from LA. She stains the canvas, and she tries to elucidate or see what the canvas is suggesting to her. To her, they are suggesting beautiful dreamscapes and beautiful scenes of high emotional power. To me, they're suggesting monsters. So one thing that you could do that I think it would be really fun is you just put up unfinished sketches around you, and one day you just skim through this and see which one you feel like resuming or getting back into it, and it might go into a completely new different direction, but it's an exercise that helped me a lot, and I think it helps a lot of people. Like we keep all our drawings in a sketchbook, right? And
yeah,
sometimes we don't even look back into what we produce. But if we do, we suddenly realize, oh my God, I'm actually decent at this stuff, or I actually like doing this stuff, because otherwise I would haven't feel like I don't know, 100-page sketchbook or 10 pages. Doesn't matter the quantity. So that I think that that space, having these materials within that space, it's a great tool for self knowledge, and it really helps your artistic growth. So yeah, go ahead, start drawing again.
yeah, man. Do you teach? Do you like do
Yeah, I
any
do.
teaching stuff? Okay,
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
in
do.
person or online?
I used to do it in person, but since the pandemic, I started looking into uh, online options. So you cannot see it right now, but behind my big head, there's the setup the with the with the camera and the
Like,
lights.
okay,
Yeah. So I teach mostly in Spanish because I I have big imposter syndrome. So you can imagine what happens to me every time I try to speak English. But also because I feel there's a lack of like I had the opportunity to learn from people who were huge into editorial illustration and had very different perspective on art creation. Very opposed, not opposed in the sense of they're enemies, but diametrically opposed within the spectrum to what is taught here in my country, and maybe even in South America. I haven't got the chance to talk to a lot of teachers here in South America, but I know that within my country, I offer a very unique perspective and a very unique way of looking at the at art making. So I usually teach gouache painting, which I think is my favorite for land painting.
yeah, I love gouache.
And yeah, gouache is amazing, and it's kind of getting a revival lately. And I do mentorships for people who want to find their artistic voices.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I always like, I was going to ask you, like, is Paraguay kind of like on more on the conservative side, you would
Oh,
say, or is
yeah,
it kind of like,
I will get politically into politics, but yeah, it's very conservative. So a lot of art was made in response to the dictatorship that was around the 80s in Paraguay. And so we don't have a lot of academy. We don't have like atelier training. From time to time, they will pop one atelier will pop up and close. uh,
Okay.
um, so I kind of got with my education. I kind of got into the sweet spot between what's academic and what is like self-expression. Most teaching in my country lean towards the contemporary art,
Okay.
uh, and illustration is not something. It's kind of got a revival in the last years or so here, but we don't have a lot of publishing houses and all that, so that's why it's not very popular. But yeah, I the kind of education I had, I would never had it in Paraguay in 1,000 years yet. I I kind of look forward to sharing that knowledge as much as I can with other people.
Yeah, I mean, I mean that in a way that kind of makes you sort of like you said, there's not many people doing your style of art, so that kind of like it's good for you in a way because then people are like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, kind of makes you more unique and
yeah. But back at Bill Sienkiewicz, I think he said in one of his interviews that if you are the last in line and you turn around, you're the first, which I thought was kind of funny. But man, that's that was Bill Sienkiewicz. Like he will do very experimental work, and most people that were going into comics would do like this very traditional stuff. And I've felt lonely or like the weird guy every time every artist convention I go, because nobody's kind of doing what I do. And it took me some very long it took very long conversations and some friendly advice from my mentors and friends to learn that there's actually a strength, not something that you are out of the cool kids club because you do stuff different. So I'm kind of enjoying my weird guy era, weird guy arc right now.
yeah. I was told like because I lost my job about maybe 2.5 years ago, and
Oh,
I was
sorry
kind
to
of
hear
looking
that.
for. Oh yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm kind of working right now. I'm a graphic designer for like a music promoter, but at the time, a buddy of mine was like, he was like looking at my art and he was like, I like your art, but I think you like it's very dark and not I don't know like in terms of like theme, but just like it was like actually dark, like it wasn't bright, like the actual art
Yeah,
itself. And he was saying like, oh, if you try to like brighten it up or make it kind of more like like Ed Ripka or whatever, kind of like Megadeth covers, or you might get more clients. And then I kind of thought about it, and I'm just like, well, that's going against my own like my own style or my like.
mhm.
I feel like I just naturally gravitate towards that, like the tones, the textures I use, and the lighting. So I feel like I never wanted to be that type of artist that was like going to produce stuff that majority of people would like. I kind of just do it for myself. I mean, that's what it's about. I think being an artist.
Yeah, indeed it is. Indeed it is. So glad that you found a place to express yourself and your own artistic voice.
Yeah, another question. So when you're doing like book covers or album covers, do you prefer when a client gives you like free reign to do whatever you want? Or do they usually have an idea and say, like, I kind of want you to stay in these parameters, but with your style? Like, do you prefer kind of having like, the choice of just doing whatever and they're like, we love it? Or do you kind of like having a little bit of a restricting? Because sometimes
Yeah,
that's having a restrictive concept kind of makes you more think outside the box and go, okay, how can I make this different and cool, but staying within whatever.
yeah. I personally, obviously, I prefer artistic freedom. That said, I mean, I'm already working on the weird fiction genre. It's not like they are going to hire me to do, I don't know, some genre that I don't particularly enjoy. So my portfolio and the ideas I express with my personal work really resonate in a personal level with the authors and the readers, I like to believe. That said, the reality of working with big book publishers that your art needs to go through a series of approval that goes from the marketing department to a representative of the major books, representatives of the major bookstore chains and everything in between that you don't get to see. Only the art director gets to filter all of the info and give it to you in a very diplomatic way, in a very gentle way. Um, and sometimes um, the if you want to pitch an idea to a publisher, you probably will go to multiple iterations of that idea until you reach that sweet spot. So if I got lots of time, I always prefer artistic freedom. Or if it's the publishers like boutique independent publishers who publish these lavishly illustrated editions, they usually also give you artistic freedom because they know that you are not trying to sell the book to a new audience. The audience is already there. When you do a book cover for a horror book, um, and I don't want to speak, I don't want to presume to speak from our publishers, but the impression that I got is that they know that the horror fan, the weird fantasy, the weird guy, the people who enjoy dark art are going to get that book anyway. So your objective is to create something that can also grab everyone else and expand that island, that niche. And that's a huge, and I mean a huge labor intensive thing to do when you don't have a clear art direction or a guideline. So it takes a lot of time. So it always depends. It always depends. I gotta say, for a big book uh, company, yeah, send me their directions. Um, Something smaller that already has an intended audience and doesn't need to go beyond that. I enjoy artistic freedom. I would say that for bands, I prefer artistic freedom. I don't really like, sorry about that, all the bands, but I don't really like most of the art direction that the average the average stuff. I'm obviously here omitting like the genius like Elira Cantor, Travis Smith, and all the great Karma Seed, all the excellent artists who work in the media. But I found that like, and this is like people who create with words and sounds doesn't necessarily know how to translate that to an image. So sometimes I will get like working from an independent author, I want this character to look menacing. Behind him, we can see stairs towards infinity, and in the gleam on his side, we can see the cosmos vanishing. And it's like, what? Sorry for the profanity. What the fuck are you talking about? I can't. There's so much stuff happening in the micro level, and with bands, the tendency was usually if they like to micromanage the stuff to a minimum, I kind of say, look, I'm not your guy. I always come forward saying I would like to have artistic freedom. It's fine if you don't like the sketches, I will get more. But if you are in a hurry, give me something to work on. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting because like usually you think coming up with something just randomly, or having them letting you just do whatever you want would be quicker than giving you a brief, but it's actually the opposite because you're honestly trying to think of an idea rather than given an idea to work with. Um, so so yeah, I know you've done a few album covers, and I think you did. I think you did a Cradle of Filth's
Oh yeah,
album cover for Cradle of Filth, right?
yeah, yeah.
So I remember years ago you made some post, and I don't know if you had like a bad or a negative experience or what, but I just remember that vividly,
Huh?
like it's standing out. And I was just wondering if you wanted to talk about that.
Well, I had a great experience with Cradle of Filth. It was
Oh,
a
okay.
funny experience. I meet Danny Field afterwards, and he was a great guy. The only bad experience we have, and I said we because both we got into this kind of limbo. Afterwards, we were so hyped about our collaboration, and I really like. I know I might be labeled as a poser. I don't know if that thing happens, but I really like the lyrics of that Danny writes. I think he's one of the greatest lyricists of our time. And we wanted to do a poetry book together, and we were looking for a publisher. We had like a big pile. I still have a big pile of art, but that went like we even announced the cover, if I remember correctly. And that sadly went nowhere. We weren't able to find it, and Danny is a really busy a person who's very busy. But yeah, it was a very nice experience. It was quite surreal. I listened to Cradle of Filth extensively when I was in a graphic design school. In fact, I was known as the guy who would come with the very graphic Cradle of Filth designs to schools. Um, there was one that says "Dead girls don't say no," which probably wouldn't be very popular today.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
uh,
I was a fan of theirs, and I kind of stopped listening.
yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah. I just that's the sort of stuff that kind of happens naturally. You deviate towards other stuff. Uh, it was a really fun project for that. What I really like is that they will send me just the lyrics, and they will send like album titles, and they will say which one do you like the most. So I felt like a part of it. It was very nice. My experience with other bands, smaller bands, were like sometimes they were very they would like to micromanage. They were like control freaks. My experience with bigger bands, because I kind of art auction for some bigger bands, it was like yeah, it was just management calling the shots, and that's fine. Uh, but yeah, Cradle of Filth was kind of the sweet spot, I think. Really
nice.
nice. I really like working with them. But since then, as you know, the music industry has experienced some cuts and all that. And I have a very funny story. I thought that my art wasn't enough for Cradle of Filth, so I found out if the members of Cradle of Filth at that time had like side projects, and I found that the bass player had a side project. So I contacted him. I listened to the project, obviously. So I contacted him on MySpace. God, I'm old.
I remember my
And
face. You're not
yeah,
that old.
we are old, dude. I contacted him through MySpace, and he was very nice about it. And he sent the link I sent to him to Danny, and management contacted me shortly after to do some shirts for their Christmas tour. Yeah, fun memories, man.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah. I'm still kind of like, like you have a, obviously when bands or authors go to you, they kind of look through your portfolio and they kind of know what they're going to get. But I still, even though my work is a certain way, like I still get random bands that are like, they'll hit me up and it's like, hey, can you do like something that's like a race car with? I'm like what the, like I'm still at that point where they're still sending me stuff that I'm like, I don't do that stuff. Like, why would you? But
Oh,
yeah, it's
that was funny also because I was listening to black metal and death metal. Never really big into power metal set, but I found myself getting quite a bit of offers to do power metal records, which is okay, that's fine. as long as you think my stuff will resonate with yours, sure. But yeah,
Yeah, man. Oh, good.
yeah. I just want to say it's kind of weird and wonderful at the same time that people would put you, like you say, in a race car as the guy who does race cars. I mean, what did they saw in your work? What happens if you, I don't know if you like race cars or not, but what happens if you actually explore that direction?
Yeah, I mean, I actually did. It was for a band, like a kind of like a stoner rock band. They were called, I think they're called Ranchero or something. And they went to some like car show and they took a photo of this like old like F1 like racing car. And I like actually did the cover and it was actually okay. I mean, it was like definitely, not usually, it wasn't like extremely like, oh, this is fulfilling, I'm doing a car or whatever, but it was more of just like I needed money, so I just did it. But yeah, it came out pretty cool, whatever. But I wouldn't say it's a representation of like what I like to do. And I think that's the thing, is like anything that I do, I'm a stickler for like having something like be consistent, like your portfolio look consistent, even your online stuff being consistent. And like even with my Instagram posts, I'll like kind of post stuff that's like more recent, because I sometimes I go back to my old work and go, oh, like that looks like shit, or just like you don't like it anymore and you don't want to like. But then occasionally I'll have someone, they'll like go to my website and they'll find some old ass artwork and they're like, I really love this piece, I want it to be like on the. I'm like, okay, I mean, they're gonna pay me, so I'll drop their logo on there. But like, it's just like, I wish you would just have me do something new, because I really hate that piece.
Yeah, I made a mistake once of putting a swan, the bird, as a background. Decapitated swans as a background in one of my pieces. So, but suddenly I got a commission for doing 10 or 20, something, a big number of pieces with swans. And I don't even like swans that much.
Yeah, I was actually, I did an interview with Elron, and we were talking about like, getting like, what would you like your dream project? And he was just like, oh, Iron Maiden would be like my number one, but I guarantee they would probably have me paint a dragon or something. And I guess he hates doing dragons. And it's like, oh, like that. Yeah, it's just like your dream gig, and then they make you do something that like you don't even want to do. But so I know I hate always bringing up AI.
Oh man,
it's like I'm so tired of it. But do you feel like, I know you mentioned you did a book cover pretty much mostly traditionally. Do you feel like you're leaning towards more of the traditional media now that AI has kind of become a thing? And like, I think people are kind of searching for actual, like, okay, I know this person physically painted this, so it has more value than someone who's just using an AI prompt. And like, do you feel like you're more valuable, I guess, compared?
I remember like back in the day when I was starting, Donato Giancola? Donato, a great artist from Brooklyn.
Okay. I might.
You probably do, but you don't understand the way I pronounce. I say it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, great artist from Brooklyn, and I was scouring his website, and he said this was like in the early 2000s. People were asking him, why don't you do? Why you always paint traditionally? Why don't you do any digital art? And he said something along the lines of, I always like painting traditionally, and in thanks to digital art, the prices of my painting have gone up. So that doesn't leave a lot of space for me to go and paint digitally. Something along this line. Sorry, Donato, you're hearing me. I'll buy you a beer the next time in Brooklyn.
tag him in the no.
Yeah, in case I misquote him. But I keep coming back to that with the advent of artificial intelligence, and I kind of fail to come out with any sort of argument or thought that haven't been repeated 1,000 times before
Yeah.
about artificial intelligence. But like the only thing that I feel I can add is that when people started listening to pop, what happened? It happened. It happened. Punk happened. Metal happened. Death metal, black metal, all the stuff I like. So if we have this tendency of the market to go towards digital work, which I already noticed long before the advent of artificial intelligence, I thought, what will be the most interesting thing that I could go against the grain? And suddenly it was painting traditionally. And I went there and I started, as I said before, I started since last 2 years ago. Everything has a paper trail, just to call it away. Like even if it's just a doodle that nobody will understand but me, and I found it very rewarding. Also, on a philosophical level, because at the end of the day, I had something tangible that if I hang that piece in the studio, it kind of reminds me that I did that. I was alive. This happened. It's like a sort of memory. It's like
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I totally
yeah.
get that. It's like I have a Star Wars like a little
Oh yeah,
poster, and it was
notice.
signed by David Prowse for Darth Vader. And like I know he signed it, but there's like his hands were on that are a
Yes.
painting. The
Yeah.
textures. His like that makes it special.
Yeah, exactly. And so I've been painting traditionally. I'm kind of training myself into being a better traditional painter uh, for a long time. One of the reasons why I don't pick I didn't pick the brush more often is was like, the pressure of I'm never going to be good enough. I already spent I don't know how many years of my life working digitally, and I have a level of comfort in that medium. Why I'm going to pick up a pencil if everybody else already picked up a pencil like a long time ago and probably drawing better. I kind of a lot of that kind of disappear with time in the last 2 years. So yeah, I've been feeling sketchbooks like mad and doing paintings. Um, wherever they will be valued in the future, I'm not sure about that. The cyclical nature of art supposedly says so, but at the end of the day, it's just for myself.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I'm like exactly like what you said with like I've been doing digital for so long, and it's like like if I were to just start doing traditional stuff, there would just be this like period of where it would just like not look good, and it's like, is this even Kieran's stuff anymore? Like there's because I feel like that my identity is more with my digital stuff. I mean, even my screen name is Kieran in digital. It's like so it's kind of like I'd have to just totally switch over or like just use my name and like that's the scary part. It's like
Yes.
devoting a lot of time to do traditional, and then all of a sudden the stuff that I'm actually getting paid to do is going to the wayside. And I'm actually not at that point where I can just afford to not do my digital stuff, but I want to so bad. Like I want to do painting more, and because my sister is a really good painter, and she's on another level of just like she'll just sit down and start painting multiple paintings and just like, and I want to get in that zone where it's just like I'll get past that fear of like looking bad and just paint. Doesn't matter what it's going to look like. Feel good about it, and I'm still not there yet, and I kind of like I want to get there eventually.
May I offer one extra anecdote about that? I remember being very frustrated at one part in my life about the fact that, I wear my influences in my sleeve. If you look at my work, my digital work, you notice the influences. And as I said before, that's fine. But at some point, I was really, really angry about that. And I was doodling with some acrylics in my sketchbook. And my girlfriend at the time, with whom we are still friends, she said to me, you know, you get angry that people are telling you that your work looks like someone else, but the stuff you do in your traditional work is it's you. I don't see it in anybody else. So that kind of gave me the courage to, because again, the same frame of mind, if this isn't as good as a digital. So I started posting it online, and suddenly, likes aren't an indication of anything, but they will get more attention and more comments and more
Yeah.
likes. So yeah, I kind of needed that part, but that was one of the greatest reasons why I started doing traditional work, and why you should as well. I'm sure you will do great, man. Do it.
Yeah, I was thinking about like composing, like creating the art like I would normally would traditionally or on the computer,
Digitally.
and
Yeah.
then painting it, like using
Yes.
it as a reference just to start out, because I feel like I devote so much time to get the colors and all that stuff, the composition, and it's like it'd be a shame to be like, okay, why don't I just paint that? But then sometimes I have done that where I've sketched my own art, and it's like, why does this look like shit? Because it's
Yeah.
again, it's I haven't, I took a life drawing class in college like 20 something years ago, but again, if I would have like did more life drawing, learn anatomy, I probably would be able to draw a little bit better. But it's like, again, it's like square one, like trying to relearn stuff. And
You do better. Just give it time, man.
yeah. All right. Last question. I always ask all my guests this, but what would be the dream, your dream project to work on? Whether it's a book cover, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be, you know, uh, shoot, even like if you wanted to play music with the band on, I don't know.
Oh yeah. This is a huge question because there's a lot of stuff that I want to do. I don't know. You notice I got a shirt by one of my favorite bands, Samuel
Okay, yeah.
from Switzerland. I would love to do a cover from them, Morbid Angel. I would do a book cover for Clive Barker's The Books of Blood, something with Thomas Ligotti, Mariana Enriquez, like an illustrated edition for a book by Alan Moore or Clive Barker will be great. But I feel like, man, looking at it, I would love to design a robot for Japan, but that's a totally different ballpark. So what I'm getting is that, um, and this kind of goes back to to a previous question, that I think that my dream project will be actually having somebody who would pay me to do just what I want, whether that would be filling a gallery wall with paintings, filling a book with paintings, or just to get all hip and cool like the kids are talking today, develop my own IP with the lore and character designs and all that. That will be my dream project. um, of all the things I said before, it's the least likely to happen because it would mean somebody to take a really big leap of faith. But yeah,
Well,
that's my dream project, and I already started writing and illustrating it, of course, on my own time. But with projects like that, it's just to put it in a very blunt way, people will start giving you money once they see the project, not when you just sit around and dance and just do gestures of, oh, this is a cool story about blah blah blah.
Yeah, actually, I interviewed this guy named Lee, and I was telling him how like the obvious answer to that, like, I mean, you mentioned some of those bands, but like sometimes you get those gigs, like it happens, and then you do a cover or you do something, and then there's either you have a bad experience with said band member or whatever, and it kind of goes like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, and then now I'm like,
Yeah.
it kind of rubs you the wrong way. But
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing worse that being contacted by a band that you admire and love, and they say like do some really boring stuff, like really bad idea.
yeah.
May I
Well,
ask
Sam,
you before
oh,
we
yeah.
say goodbye, because I've been looking at your interviews and I really like them. May I ask you, what is your dream project?
What is my dream project?
Yeah.
I did an interview with a buddy of mine, a live interview. He runs a tattoo shop in my town, and he actually asked me that. And my dream project is kind of similar to yours, is where I honestly just want consistent client work to come in, because I don't have that at the moment.
Mhm.
And just the ability to kind of like put food on the table and travel, but also do that would be like a dream of mine. Like, because I have done some projects for bigger bands, and like I said, sometimes it's like you get all excited and you do it, and then it's just like, okay, like, well, that was nice, but the reality is like I just want to create for a living, and I'm still not at that level yet. And I've been doing this for over 20 years now. So it's like I'm still working towards that, like just being full on freelance, being in
Mhm.
control of the clients I get, and getting clients that want to work with me would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, remember, art is a marathon.
Yeah, it
You got
is. I mean, I don't, whether I get paid for it or not, I'm going to still be doing it. I mean, I enjoy it way too much. It's a part of who I am. I can't function if I don't create in some aspect. So there's not even a question, but it just would be nice to be like, every month have a couple of commissions, and I can be like, all right, I can work on this, work on that, and I'll be good, but yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, dude, for taking the time out of your day. I'm sure you're a busy guy. I mean, obviously I follow you and see all your stories, and you're always creating. But I'm gonna leave a link to all your stuff below the video, your website, your shop. But yeah, everybody check out Sam's work. Amazing illustrator, and give him a follow if you can. But yeah, man, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoy it.